On the night of November 30th, 2018, the Smith family in Baltimore, Maryland were simply celebrating a birthday. It was meant to be a happy evening, one filled with laughter, music, and family memories. But before the night ended, that celebration would turn into a tragedy, and later, one of the most shocking deception cases the city had ever seen. This is the story of Jacquelyn Smith, a woman known for her kindness and the disturbing truth that investigators eventually uncovered. That evening, Jacquelyn Smith, her husband Keith, and her stepdaughter Valeria attended a birthday celebration at the American Legion Hall. They ate together, danced, took photos, and spent hours enjoying what seemed like an ordinary family gathering. Shortly before midnight, they left the venue and began driving home. According to Keith's later statements, the car slowed at a stop sign when Jacquelyn noticed a woman standing on the street holding a small bundle and a sign asking for help. Jacquelyn, known by friends and family as compassionate and generous, reportedly wanted to offer assistance. But what Keith claimed happened next would shock the nation. He later told police that as Jacquelyn reached out to help, a man suddenly approached the vehicle and attacked her before fleeing with the woman. At 12:30 a.m., Keith called emergency services in a panic, saying his wife needed immediate medical attention. She was rushed to the hospital, but despite efforts by doctors, Jacquelyn Smith passed away soon after. Jacquelyn Smith was 54 years old. She was an electrical engineer who worked for the Department of Defense. She was also a devoted mother of 2 sons and was deeply involved in her church community. Friends described her as warm, generous, and deeply compassionate, someone who was always willing to help others. Her death quickly drew national attention because it appeared to be a tragic example of kindness met with violence. Even public figures spoke about the case, expressing how unsettling it felt. But as investigators began their work, they noticed something unusual. Detectives first examined the location where the incident supposedly happened. However, they found no evidence supporting the story. There were no witnesses, no physical signs, and no indication that anyone matching the suspect descriptions had been seen there. Investigators also noticed something else. The area where the incident was said to occur was not known for panhandling activity. This raised the first red flag. As police began reviewing surveillance footage and phone records, more inconsistencies appeared. Cameras tracked the Smith family leaving the event hall, but after that, their vehicle could not be seen traveling along the route Keith had described. Phone data revealed something even surprising. Instead of heading home, the family's phones showed that they had stopped at a nearby park for 15 minutes. This stop had never been mentioned to investigators. Meanwhile, Jacquelyn's phone activity suggested it had never left her home that night, contradicting claims that it had been taken during the alleged robbery. At this point, investigators began to suspect that the original story was not accurate. As questioning continued, Keith's statements changed multiple times. Details about who took certain items shifted. Descriptions of events became inconsistent. Soon after, Keith and his daughter unexpectedly moved out of state. This sudden relocation raised further suspicion. Authorities monitored their movements and later discovered they were attempting to leave the country. In March 2019, both Keith and Valeria were arrested near the southern U.S. border. Investigators eventually uncovered evidence suggesting the entire panhandler story had been fabricated. Instead, they determined the incident had occurred earlier at the park where the family had stopped. Prosecutors argued that the crime was planned and motivated by financial gain. Evidence showed Keith had attempted to claim life insurance benefits shortly after Jacquelyn's death. Valeria later entered a plea agreement and testified during the trial. She stated that her father had carried out the act at the park and then instructed her to help dispose of evidence and support the false story. The trial took place in 2021. Jurors heard testimony about the changing statements, digital evidence, and the alleged planning behind the incident. In December 2021, Keith Smith was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Valeria received a separate sentence for her role in assisting after the fact. For Jacquelyn's family, the verdict brought a sense of closure after years of uncertainty. The case shocked the public not only because of the tragedy itself, but because of how the story had initially shaped national fears. It also became a reminder of the importance of careful investigations and the role evidence plays in uncovering the truth. Jacquelyn Smith is remembered today not for the circumstances of her death, but for the kindness and generosity she showed throughout her life. Cases like this remind us that the truth is sometimes far more complex than it first appears. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe and stay aware.